without destroying the economy.
Well, Gerald, interrupt. I saw a bunch of news articles. I forgot to cover them the last few days. In fact, guys, Google this for me. Top insurance company buys gold first time in history.
$400 million they bought.
Well, tell folks about that, Mr. Celente.
I believe it was Northwestern, or it was I think it was Northwest Mutual. They have $400 or $200 million worth of gold they bought for the first time in business. I think they're in business like 150 years.
Yeah, that's what it said. And then I did more searches and found out a bunch of governments, like the Chinese, the Arabs, the Europeans, and other insurance companies are quietly moving into gold. They've never done that. What does that tell you, Gerald Celente?
It tells us that the fiat currencies, particularly the dollar, are not going to be worth the paper they're printed on. Again, even when you heard Federal Reserve Chairman Bernanke yesterday warning that there's a risk of another crisis on the horizon.
Inflation.
And they're not going to be able to print more money to bail us out. They're running out of games. So the timeline, by the way, Alex, during the summer, things usually quiet down. Yeah, Europe goes on vacation, and things start getting real again around September, October. Again, you just look through history. When we saw the crisis that happened in 2008, it happened in September. I think it was September 15th. It was with Lehman Brothers went belly up, the biggest bankruptcy in our history, AIG crisis, Merrill Lynch, and one after another. What happens is when people come back from vacations, they start looking at the books in a lot of different ways. They get real about it. So September, October is one time to look. The other one, and this is the one that's going to tell the final story, it's going to be Christmas sales 2009. Watch how those sales come in. You're going to see them in way worse than they were last year, and they were terrible last year. Then you move into the new year, and that's when things in 2010 really start to unravel. That's our timeline.
And you're saying the only rabbit in the hat they've got that you see for another bubble, this is the end of the bubbles unless they start a huge war?
Yeah, but this time it's different than the times before, in the sense that this time we'll have wars of weapons of mass destruction. It's not going to be giant fleets fighting each other in the Pacific or tanks, coming at each other over the battlefields. This will be suitcase-sized nuclear weapons. Matter of fact, my book Trends 2000, which came out in December of 1996, the whole front of it was front-loaded with the breakup of the former Soviet Union and all of the nuclear materials on the black market that was spread throughout the world, and they're still out there. So we're going to see a very different war. This will be out of control. No one will know what to do, and the chaos will be beyond what any Hollywood movie could ever dream up.
So you're talking about a black ops, special ops war?
Yes. Again, anybody could get over into anybody's country. It's not a big deal. Borders are very porous. I remember writing in the Trends Journal, I believe it was 1998, about over 100 suitcase-sized nuclear weapons were lost in Russia. I mean, lost? So it's going to be that kind of thing, weapons of mass destruction. We called it WWMD3. World Wars of Weapons.
Okay, I want to go over that with you because you've talked about it, government-sponsored terror. There's certainly some real terror and real wars, between powers. But look at these global banks. They're bringing in their world government. They're using the global crisis to get their global carbon tax. They engineered the crisis, whether by design or by their idiocy. The point is they're clearly getting power and control out of it. Now they need to have a world government come into place out of this bigger crises. They need to have a war, just like they used a World War I to get League of Nations, World War II to get UN. Now they say we need one more big war to bring in the final world government. I see all the evidence that this is planned out. And if suitcase nukes aren't brought in, if somebody isn't stupid enough to attack, then I see them staging it because it's the only bubble, the only crisis that they have left to bring them into power. So I agree with what you say, Gerald, and I see them making the preparations, hardening government facilities, preparing tattletale squads, domestic infrastructure. DHS reports that Americans are terrorists, youth brigades. I see huge industrial buildup for war against the people. Northcom making announcements. You said this a year ago. We've been talking about it for a long time. Zolik warns stimulus sugar high won't stem unemployment. What you just said, with Bernanke saying the money has to end because they've already bought everything up. He says unemployment increases that will cause political combustible issue and destabilization and conflict. He says rising joblessness threatens to set off political unrest across the globe. So they're saying this, but like beaters beating the bushes to drive out, the mastodons over the cliff. We're the mastodons. This is all crazy like a fox going right towards their world government. So, Gerald Celente, your take on that?
Well, whether they cause it or exploit it, it's going to happen in the sense that you also have worldwide unrest. Latvia. We saw it in Greece, Iceland. You're seeing it in France. Look what's happening over in Spain. The unemployment rate is almost 20%. Ireland, the UK, and in the U.S., you're going to start seeing it happening, whether or not, and then again, as I said, they are fomenting war in the Middle East with the escalation in Afghanistan and in Pakistan.
So that's clearly a false flag. Clearly they know they're stirring the pot on purpose.
Exactly. So whether or not they create the terror or the terror is created from their actions, one way or another, they're setting the stage for it. So what we're saying at this point is that the escalation of the Afghan-Pakistan wars are setting the stage for terrorism at 9/11 levels. Again, whether manufactured or real, we're going to see it. And the people, you look at the poll data now. Most people are in favor of these wars in the United States. So if they say, we're being attacked by Islamo-fascists because they hate our liberty and freedom, the people are going to swallow it again.
Gerald Celente, Trends Forecaster, what did you think about, or did you see, the Pakistan president? They're saying, why are you helping terrorists? And he goes, Al-Qaeda, Taliban was created by the U.S. against the Russians and pushed. You guys are using them to destabilize us, which is what's really going on. They don't control all the groups, but they nudge them and fund them and stir them up. And he made that point, and the person interviewing him on NBC kind of shut up. It seems like this trick is starting to wear a bit thin.
Precisely. And a matter of fact, in this next Trends Journal, summer edition that'll be coming out in a few weeks, we're reviewing the history of Pakistan, which we had written about when they assassinated Benazir Bhutto in January, I believe it was December 2007. And now her husband, Zardari, is the president of Pakistan. Well, they used to call him Mr. 10%. Because he used to take 10% of all the government action. He did time in jail for being accused of raping the government of $5 billion. It's one criminal enterprise after another. And we're in the thick of it.
Absolutely. Gerald Celente, I don't know if you've seen this yet. It just came out last night. Washington Times playing some one of millions, crazy imams, bragging about if we had one fighter to bring anthrax to America and kill hundreds of thousands. I've seen this months ago. They take this like it's breaking news and say he works with the gun-owning militia. Then they tie militia to white supremacists. Same thing that they do in the DHS report that says gun owners, veterans are the number one threat. And we see all of Homeland Security, Northcom, being set up to suppress a legitimate revolution by the American people, or a restoration, which you've been predicting. We've got Zolik at the World Bank saying this is coming. They're clearly now swinging around the Homeland Security system, the apparatus, to point it at the American people, saying we are Al-Qaeda. So they clearly know they're about to do some things politically. where they're going to sick Homeland Security on the general public, and they're training local police departments nationwide. This is confirmed that veterans will come back and bomb you with IEDs, and that the veterans work with Al-Qaeda. Do you think this new load of bull is going to sell?
Well, again, if there's an attack of any kind, whether it's manufactured or legitimate, the people respond very quickly by fear, as we saw with Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. They'll swallow most of what's fed to them.
But now they're going to say the gun owners are the terrorists. They're going to say, oh, Al-Qaeda hit us, take the people's guns. The gun owners are Al-Qaeda. I mean, that is really over the top.
We don't believe, by the way, that Second Amendment rights will be repealed. I mean, that's our, and I'm a strong advocate of Second Amendment rights.
Why? Because they can't get away with it?